Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World, where today we're talking all handle materials. Now, this has been a video I've wanted to come up with for quite a while now, but I've struggled on how I wanted to set it up, how I wanted to present it. So after taking some time to come up with I think what is a pretty good plan to cover all this and cover the many, many options you have out there. There's really a lot more out there than I think some people realize because you usually don't see them all at once. You see them on certain knives here and there. So this is kind of pulling everything together, discussing the pros and cons of each one, and helping inform you guys and also helping you make a good decision in the future when you're looking at knives. Now, keep in mind, this is not an end-all, be-all guide to handle materials. Just my thoughts on the most common ones and where they sit with me. I'm definitely no expert on anything. I just know what I like and thought this would make for a good subject discussion. So with all that being said, let's go. But real quick, before we go, if you guys like what you're seeing on my channel and it's worth your time, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, follow along. I'm going to continue to bring you guys the content, and your subscription to my channel would mean a whole lot to me and really help support the growth of it. Now, with all that being said, let's get into it. We're going to start from the bottom up to the top of what I consider the best. And we're starting off with good old FRN. Now, I say good old FRN, but personally to me, there's really nothing very good about it. FRN can be strong, and it can be good quality. It's light and expensive, but at the end of the day, to me, it just feels cheap. Now, some companies like Civivi actually do an okay job with it. I still don't like it, but at the same time, what they do is, they do some clean, some milling on the scales here. I'm assuming that's milling. I mean, it could be maybe pressed or formed too as well. So actually, yeah, it's probably pressed or formed in some way like that. I doubt this is milled, but at the end of the day, it just has a cheap, hollowy feel to me. And it's to the point to where another material that we're going to be talking about later is so popular and so good, I really question why anyone uses FRN unless you're making a really cheap, like, I don't know, $25 and under knife. It's just not worth it to me. Again, like I said, it can be very strong. And as you can see with this right here, there's a little flex in it, but it's also because it's thin. By no means would I worry about this breaking. But FRN is just one that has never been a winner with me. Even on nicer knives like the Giant Mouse Ace Iona, which I actually sold. This is the only FRN scale I have, and it won't be lasting for long. I'll be getting rid of this one too. Just holding on to it for a little additional carry and long-term review. But overall, it just is what it is. It's a cheap option, and I think it kind of brings a knife down. Not something I would ever recommend to anybody. Again, just my opinion, but I don't really like it. But you see it a lot, and some people don't know what it is, so I wanted to bring that up. This is FRN, and that's definitely at the bottom of my list of handle materials. Now, next up, you have a category that kind of goes from light to really heavy, and that would be brass or copper. Now, I don't have any copper scales on me in my collection right now, but I do have some brass, and we'll go over this. And now brass, brass does look nice, and it patinas very, very well. You can also do a lot of stuff from, engraving to milling to make the handle pop a little artsy and give it some good texture and grip like you have here on this Civivi McKenna. But what I do like about it is also what I hate about it, and that's the fact that it is heavy. It's a very heavy metal. So it really depends on what knife you put it on. I personally, the few times, I used to really love copper and brass. And what happened as my taste and preferences in knife changed, I realized I don't always like a real heavy knife. What I like to do with the heavier metals, kind of like what you have here on this bug out, is a prime example. I like to take a light knife like the bug out, which is designed to be light. It's really supposed to be light, but when you add a scale like brass to it, you're taking a light knife and making it kind of heavy, but you're not making it a pocket brick. I can easily carry this with no issue whatsoever, and it just feels really good in pocket, and it gives you a really good, I do like the feel in hand of a heavy handle and basically not feeling the blade at all, because this really does take away any feel of blade weight that you would feel with this, because the bug out already has a thin stock and a decent edge, nice edge, but paired with this heavy handle here, it feels well in hand. It's not fully balanced. Obviously, if I let this go, it would fall that way. But I like that. I like the feel of all the weight being in my hand, and the blade just kind of feels like air. So that is a benefit, but it's also a drawback, because sometimes knives are designed with strictly copper or brass scales, and you just have one real heavy object from top to bottom. I can't say I really like that anymore. I used to, I just don't. Again, we're talking personal preference, but I think the best way to go with copper and brass is using it on a lighter design knife, which is most of the time going to result in aftermarket scales. So again, that's also something I don't tinker with a lot, but or at least not when it comes to brass and copper. But again, I think this is a good option, and it, like I said, it patinas very well. I've carried this a decent amount, and you start to get kind of a smoky finish going along. This was actually much brighter when I first got it. You get some little notes of black and gray as your sweats and just kind of the good old grime and stuff starts to wear on it. I've seen a lot better examples of patinaed brass than this. And actually what you can get in the long run is a forced, or a patina, but this is actually a forced patina of brass that Civivi did. They did a pretty good job of. As you can see, it almost looks like a black stone washed. They called it a forced patina. So basically, they're kind of mimicking advanced use in what it could look like over time. This would have to be some pretty heavy use, though. But again, this gives you a very good balance in hand with this knife, because again, it's a light blade, and it just feels really good in hand with all the weight sitting right there in your fingers. So really, outside of the weight, I don't have a lot of drawbacks to copper or brass. Copper can smell, as you guys know. Brass smells, but not quite as bad as copper. Now, it's not going to stink your whole pockets up and, empty a room, but you are going to smell it, and some people have a real big issue with that. I've developed an issue with that over time, I guess, because I don't so much mind the knife smelling, but then your hands do start to pull that smell over, and I don't like that. So it's another one of the reasons that I've kind of pulled away from brass and copper over the past year or two. But at the same time, I do still appreciate it. I do still like it on a few of my knives, and I think these were my two best examples here, the McKenna and the Bug Out. So there's your copper and brass. And next up, we have woods. Now, there's all sorts of woods you can get at on knives. This here is the Gareth Bull drop collaboration to make their Mira, and this is featuring rosewood scales. Now, when it comes to wood in general, it can go a lot of different ways. Wood, typically, in what I always look at it as, is very classy and dressy. It's a light material, and it can look absolutely gorgeous, like what you have here, which is very, very nice. It's just a very nice, good lines on it. There's nothing too obtrusive that pops out and just takes away from the rest of the knife, which I really do like that on this one. I was worried. Every time I get a wooden knife, I am worried, because you never know what the grain's going to give you. The grain can give you something that looks absolutely fantastic, and it can give you something that looks like crap. So it's always kind of a risk, because odds are you are not going to get the one in the picture. So you don't really know what you're going to get in looks when it comes to that until you actually get it. This one, I think, worked out very, very well. Now, wood is also usually smooth, because you don't necessarily want to always do any type of milling or texturizing to it. So it really comes down to the ergos of the knife as far as how much grip you want to have. They did a fantastic job on this Mira. But going back to just the actual material itself, it does feel good, it looks good, and the only real drawback to wood in general, in my opinion, is the fact that over time it can get kind of nasty. It can wear away, it can scratch somewhat easily, and it's not always the best option for longevity in a knife, unless you really like the patinaed, beat-up look, which I do on some knives, but when it comes to wood, I just don't think wood patinas well. it can, but sometimes it can get nasty and sticky and, from gunk being on it, and there's ways to clean it, but it can get a little hairy. Not literally, but figuratively. But if you don't like real wood, you also have really good options in stuff like Paca wood in the CJRB RIA from Knife Center and other versions. Benchmade has used Paca wood in certain handles. I believe the mini crooked river and regular crooked river is either like diamond wood or Paca wood, which is all kind of the same stuff. This is a composite, and what this does is it basically gives it a wooden look, which this actually looked pretty good. I really like the way the front scale turned out, and the Paca wood being a composite and having plastic in it, it makes it largely waterproof. For the most part, is waterproof. I don't think you can say it's 100% waterproof, but it's a huge upgrade in longevity from regular wood. Now, one of the drawbacks of Paca wood and any type of composite wood is you can get stuff like this, where there's a little bit of higher coloration in the scale. What they do is they use dye to make the color and look, and I don't know the whole complete process, but they use some type of dye to give it the wood effect, and sometimes you get something like this, and I don't know why, but I kind of like it on this. It's one thing if it's just one little stripe on the clip side to where it's not the end of the world. I don't know. I really like the way the show side looked because it didn't, there's nothing to, it's uniform, it's consistent, and it does look like wood grain, and it really does. These imitation woods are really good stuff in my opinion. I really do like them. Do I like the rosewood better? Yeah, I do. I do like the rosewood better, but there's some major advantages to Paca wood over regular wood. It can be price, but again, when you're talking prices of these materials, it really varies. I mean, you can get cheap wood that looks okay. It just may not hold up as well, or the actual treatment of the wood cannot be as good of a standard. So there's a lot of things that can factor into that can bring the quality of wood scales up or down. But with Paca wood, it's kind of hard to go wrong with because it takes away a lot of the special processes of making it last long. So you do have some good options there, and I do think they're worth looking at. There's a lot of times I would actually kind of prefer. I would kind of prefer Paca wood over regular wood. So definitely a good option. And always pay attention when you're getting something that looks like wood. Check to see if it is, some type of composite or real wood, and it should always specify that. But this is a very good option. I really do like the wood scales and composite wood scales very much on my knives. I just don't have a lot of them because they don't make them quite as much as the rest. But they are really good options, and they're one of my more favorite types, that being wood. Next up, we have a material that I'm always kind of torn between, and I'm torn because some of the best manufacturers in the world use it, but there's some drawbacks to it, and that is aluminum. Now, aluminum, featured here on this ProTech Malibu, is light, very durable as a whole, and pretty cost-effective, but it scratches very easily. And I'm actually blown away that I haven't gotten any real significant scratches. I have no scratches on this Malibu. Yeah, I haven't carried it like crazy, but I've carried enough to where I'm notorious for scratching aluminum, and it drives me crazy. Here, prime example on this Micarta. Now, this isn't a true scratch, but this was like just a rub, and you can see it right there. So, it's stuff like that to where aluminum as a whole, it is very durable. You don't have to, it's not going to bend or break on you, but you get little things like that, and that's not going to go away now. It's there forever, which that's fine. It's love marks. That's results from carry, but it happens pretty easily with aluminum. But you can also do really cool things with like anodizing aluminum. Micarta, as everyone knows, uses aluminum predominantly on their knives, and they do a really, really good job of it. So does ProTech. Probably the two best examples of aluminum. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any bad examples because bad examples of aluminum, I'm not even going to waste my time with because I dislike them that much. But again, it is just a very, very weight-friendly option, and it gives you options to add some pops of color to the knives and also keep the price down because it's obviously cheaper than titanium, and titanium being the other popular handle material, which we'll talk about later here in the video. But it is a good option. I just wish it wouldn't scratch as easily. If it didn't scratch as easily, I'd really have no issues with aluminum whatsoever. As you can see, two of my favorite makers use aluminum, so I'm not going to shy away from it. It's one of those things to where you just kind of accept the few negatives that come with it, which is really just the scratching of it. Other than that, I really don't know if there is any drawbacks to aluminum, to be totally honest. It's very easy to work with, so you can get a lot of good texturizing and stuff done to the handles and all sorts of different artistic add-ons, from pops of color to etchings and engravings. There's a lot of stuff you can do. So it's obviously a very popular material and one that you will see all over the market as you look for your knives. Now, next up, we have it's kind of the most popular handle material you'll probably ever see, and it is on this right here. Sorry, getting away from the microphone. I'm trying to figure out how to bring these up, and I'm just going to bring them up on my strapping board. Here we have G10. Now, G10 is pretty much plastic for the most part, but it's a very strong polymer, and what you get is massive, massive options like you see here. Many different colors, many different patterns of layering, and you can just get so many different options when it comes to colors. Now, G10, you really can't go wrong with it. It's light, tough, affordable, extremely versatile. When it comes to looks and colors, it's very easy to work with, so it can be milled very easily to give you really nice texture. This actually has a lot more texture than it looks. Subtle texture here on the Kaiser Dukes, but it's there, and it feels very, very, very good. And you can do some things as texturizing just the outside. So as you see, Spyderco does a very good job of this. They put a really nice tacky grip on it, and it just feels good. It provides for an excellent grip in hand, a nice secure purchase, and it just makes for a very, very great, fantastic user knife. And then somehow they take that texturing and make it even stronger on something like this Yojimbo right here. And when you look at it, it actually looks very similar, but there is differences when you feel it in hand. This does have a little bit more of it's like a fine sandpaper feel. Not sandpaper in a bad way, but in a good grip way. Doesn't wear on your hand, but you notice it just enough. As to where this kind of feels a little more aggressive, but you really get the same results, and this is a little more favorable. Again, they're both fine, but I'm sure most people have handled the Yojimbo or the Paramilitary 2, or very possibly both of them. But you guys know what the texturing is on that. They're very, very good. And then all manufacturers use them too, from WE to Civivi. Now, obviously, kind of the same company. They're, Civivi's owned by WE. It's the more cost-effective models of WE for the most part. Quality's still there, but they both use them, and that says a lot because it makes for it talks behind the durability and just how much it's liked. If no one liked G10, you wouldn't see it used on knives, but what you see is it's used pretty much all over the place, and it's very tough, very stiff. You're not pushing that in at all. Granted, this is a little thicker, but even here, well, that's got metal liners in it too. But this is a good example because there are no metal liners in this. There's no inset liners. Actually, there is an inset liner on the inside here for the liner lock, but on this side up here, it is just G10, and I mean, there's just no way you're pushing that in whatsoever. Very makes for very durable material, lasts forever. You can beat the hell out of it, and you're going to be really hard pressed to break or chip any of your G10. You have to really, you basically have to slam it on the cement to really screw it up. So it's a very good option, but I think what I like most about G10 is it's pretty consistent with its quality. I mean, is there cheaper G10? Of course, I'm sure there is. But again, for the most part, I've never had a G10 to where I thought, oh God, this is just noticeably different and crappier. Um, all sorts of different textures go into this stuff. This Kaiser's a good example of how it can be milled out to give you deeper texturizing in kind of like the middle of the scale, or really wherever you want on the scale. That comes down to the actual designer. But these little slots here that are milled, combined with the actual texture here on the knife, make for a really, really solid grip in hand, really good purchase. And again, it's something that's going to last. It's very durable, even on the surface. At least as far as, in your hand, you drop it on, like I said, you drop it on concrete, it's going to get scratched up pretty easily. But again, you have so many. G10 makes it very easy to make a knife different. Here we have layered G10, which, as you can see, there's not much texture, and it's very similar to this Finch Cimarron. As you can see, kind of putting it up against the light, I wanted to make the light on the right a little harsher so you could see the differences in texture or between these knives and the Spyderco's. As you can see, it's kind of a flat, almost leathery appearance. I don't want to say it feels like leather, but it's not totally slick either. It does have a little bit of tackiness that I really, really like. And man, the action on this Cimarron is very, very good. But you get this nice layered color to where this is really, for the most part, one piece of G10 adhered together or melted, formed together some way. I don't know the exact process, but it gives you that nice, crazy pop of color that, again, some people love it, some people pass on it, but it gives you the options to make many different types of colors, gray and black, gray and yellow, tan and green, green and blue. It's really up to you and what you want to do and make with your product, but it gives you that flexibility and it gives you that variety, which is very nice to help set your knife apart from the crowd. And then, of course, you have the natural jade G10, which I think a lot of people like. It took me a long time to really get into this and really appreciate it. But it is nice, mainly because you can, if you don't like it, if you buy a knife like this and down the road you're like, this color just isn't quite, or lack of color just isn't quite working for me, you can dye it. You can take this knife apart, RIT dye it, and this Jade G10 takes any RIT dye very, very well. It'll have nice, vibrant colors. Again, that comes down to your skill level of dyeing, and you don't put in too much or too little dye to get your right richness and darkness of that whatever color you're using. But it gives you that option, and that's very nice to make a knife your own. Maybe some knives come out with just this JG10. Then you make it any color you want, and you have, somewhat of a unique knife. So it's nice to have that option. And again, regardless of all this G10 you see here, what is in line and consistent with all of it is its durability and its overall quality, which is very nice to know that you don't have to worry about getting something super cheap that's going to let you down on the long run, which is probably the biggest reason why G10, you really can't go wrong with it. What you see is what you get. And that's always nice to know. It's why this material is so popular and why it's probably not going anywhere. You're going to see this on handle materials for a lot of the knives you buy for years and years to come. I'd be very surprised if anything ever overtook this handle material right here as the primary material. I mean, I'm sure in time it will. Companies will find a way to make it, to make a more cost-effective version of it and call it something else. But right now, G10's here. I think it's here to stay for a while, and it's a very, very, very good option. Now we're starting to get into what I call the holy trinity of handle materials. Just like you have the holy trinity of knives, you have the holy trinity of materials. And up next, we are talking about micarta. So many different types of micarta. It'll make your head spin. And it comes from every segment of the market, from low end to mid end to high end to customs. Micarta is not going to go anywhere, I don't think, because so many people love it, including me. You really, and it depends what you want to do with it too. Micarta is something to where it can wear over time. It's a pretty durable material, and micarta, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people's opinion, does patina pretty well. It can get nasty if you don't take care of it, and that can also come down to the quality. There's a lot of things factoring into micarta, and some things are good about it, some things aren't so good. But I have here, I think, a really good example of the various options you can get. And we're going to start off here with the low end, the QSP Penguin. And this QSP here, the QSP in general has some of the best, if not the best, denim micarta in the industry right now. And this is on their cheaper D2 model here of the QSP Penguin. And as you can see, this is patinaed very well for me. It used to all be this lighter color you see right here on the pocket clip. But as I carried it over time, it got richer and darker in the rest of the denim. And this is denim like jean denim, the type of denim that you wear on your pants and jean jackets. But it just looks so good. For when I got this, it was $19.88, I believe. And you just can't go wrong with this. It's held up very well. I've worn this in situations where I did get sweaty and nasty. So, it holds up. You have to really wear micarta hard to get it to start to fall apart. And again, that also comes to the quality of micarta. This is obviously a very good quality micarta for such an affordable knife. But you have the really nice grain of the denim thread and the dye that goes throughout it. You get your nice speckling of white and blue. Just a very, very good option. I can't believe QSP isn't using this more. They really haven't used it enough, in my opinion, because you don't see denim micarta a lot in the market, and they do such a really good job of it. Definitely had to put this one in the list because it's a great option, and it's a very good change up from what you see here, which is the more common types of micarta, which is pretty much either going to be green or brown. Now, again, what I look for when it comes to micarta is two things more than anything. It's really hard to know if you're getting good quality micarta when it comes to longevity. You kind of have to go with the brand, the brand or manufacturer, designer's history with micarta to really get a good feel on that. But when it comes to what you can differentiate and tell from is the feel. You have to get it in hand, obviously, to get the feel, but the appearance of the micarta. And Civivi does a pretty good job. They've had some blunders with micarta, but this is a very good example of a more budgety micarta that I think still looks really good, has a phenomenal feel in hand, and you can see that grain. You see that grain where you can see the weave in the micarta. You can't see it as well on this. As we get farther down the list, you'll see that better. But it has a pretty good appearance. It's not just blobby and blotchy and kind of nasty. It looks decent, and it feels great in hand. It really does. It has a real good... There. That's the best way to hear tackiness. Just like that. It has a great tacky feel, and I think this will hold up pretty well. I've already been carrying this one a pretty good amount. This is the Civivi Riffle. Very good option. But it really is made better with this micarta here. They have other micarta options. I really did tend to lean towards the dark green here. But again, a very good budgety option. And then you can come into budgety micartas that really aren't that nice. And that is the example on this QSP. Wow, struggling for the name of it here. It's a QSP front flipper, Gannet, the QSP Gannet. And this is kind of a burlappy or snakeskin micarta. And I thought this turned out kind of nasty. Absolutely love the knife. Really do. It's a great knife, but I don't like the way they cut this micarta. It gave you kind of some ugly appearances and looks here. So it just goes to show you, you can go from good micarta with one manufacturer to the same manufacturer with really great micarta. This is more of a burlap style. This is some of the best micarta of any type I've ever handled on a budget knife under $100. And I want to say this was like in the $50 range, 52, something like that. I can't remember exactly, but this is the QSP Shark. and it's just absolutely fantastic. And I mean, when you just compare the appearance, you look at the grain and the weave and that micarta, it's absolutely gorgeous. And it still gives you that good tacky feel to where when you hold this in hand, it's not going to go anywhere. Good thing they have this micarta on here because these liners are slick, very slick. But again, focusing on the material, it's just a great, great micarta. It really is. I hope they keep using this because I absolutely love it. Really night and day between these two, but it just goes to show the vast difference you can go even within the same manufacturer, and that can be a double-edged sword. Obviously, it was good here because if this had this micarta on this one, I wouldn't have bought it. So it's really nice to know that you can get that much variety out there. So you do want to pay attention to that. I think it is a good way to look at it. If you look at it and you can see this type of grain and weave, most of the time, I can't ever think of a time where I saw a really good grain and weave on micarta in the pictures and then got it in hand and didn't like the grip and tackiness of it. So that is kind of a good thing to gauge off of. This is actually really slick. Really slick. I mean, I'm even pushing down hard and it's just sliding. But then this material here, you definitely get that tackiness with it. And that's really one of the most important things. It's one of the biggest benefits of micarta is the tackiness you get from it. And then you get into stuff like GCarta. This is the TRM Atom, obviously. And this is using what is called GCarta. And I think I knew at one point exactly what this was, but it's some other type. It's a different type of material used in with the resin to give you a little more of a kind of more of a wild texture, wild appearance, I guess. You don't have quite that uniform grain that you see in these, this is more of a linen micarta, but you can see the grain nice and easy, and then in here it just looks kind of crazy. Now this also has some yellow trails in it of a different type of thread. I'm pretty sure that's some type of thread that's weaved in between the material as it's layered and pressed in with the resin, whatever they use to make the final material. But it does look really good. Now this has a good grip to it. It's kind of I don't want to say fuzzy, but this also has some milling on it too, which is really impressive to take a material like this and do some milling on it. Came out pretty well. Really do like this. This is kind of a crazier option. You don't see this a lot. TRM uses it. I believe ProTech uses it on some of their knives, but it's out there. It's definitely more expensive because it comes from people who specialize in making this, and they do a very good job of it. And if you can ever get it on a knife, I think it is worth exploring because it's pretty cool. It's pretty fun to use, but it will hit the wall a little harder than any other micarta. Whether you get it as aftermarket scales, which is kind of what I did here. I bought it from TRM, but it's not something that I bought these separate from the knife. So the cost really does add up. But again, if you want something that is very unique and yours, this is a very good option going the GCarta route if the manufacturer offers it, or if you can find it for the knife you want to outfit it with. And then you get into just these are just all basically high-end makers. This is actually custom scales from Sharp Dressed Knives, which is really nice because sometimes you get a knife to where you don't necessarily really like the scale options. I didn't hate the green carbon fiber on this as much as other people, but sometimes micarta scales just really make a knife. They really can just make it, and this is what you have here with these Sharp Dressed Knives, brown linen scales. They're just fantastic. They're going to patina very well over time. When they get darker, as you can see, just giving it a good rubbing with my thumb here, it kind of darkens up. Your oils from your fingers and hands go sit in there, and it brings out the grain, and it just looks and feels really, really good. In micarta, it's just, again, that's why I have it in my my holy trinity of handle materials. And of course, Riot. This is a Pena X Series front flipper from Riot. Very, very nice quality micarta here. This is another option or another example of, you see that grain, you see the grain and weave in there. It looks really nice. And it has that tackiness. Now, this is kind of smooth, but it still gives you a really good feel. Just enough to where your bottom three fingers are what bite down on it as your index finger wraps around the bolster. but it just feels very, very good, looks very good. And Riot does have some of the best micarta in the business, as they should for the price of their knives, but they do a really good job with it. They cut it right, they finish it right. You're going to be hard pressed to be disappointed with any type of Riot used micarta. Same here with this Sharp by Design Evo. Just a fantastic look and grain. And this is an inlay, so that obviously they can be used as inlays too, and not just the whole handle, which I actually really like. I almost prefer inlays over full micarta handles, as long as, you know, you still have a good grip. This kind of gives you a little slicker finish along the inlay. That can always be a drawback sometimes, but again, the purpose of the micarta too is to offer that little extra bit of grip within the inlay here. So that works very well also. But again, micarta just gives all knives a good pop of almost vintage look, but it definitely just it sets it apart. It's a very unique material, very attractive material, and I think one of the best materials you can get on a knife. Now, move all these aside, and we're gonna get in. We only got two more. I think everybody knows what those last two are going to be, and we're going to start off with carbon fiber. Now, carbon fiber, when I first started my collecting journey, I wasn't huge on carbon fiber, and I don't know why. It's gotten a lot better over time, and your options right now with carbon fiber are just absolutely insane. Let me organize these here to get a little more different as I go through how I want to present these to you guys, because there's obviously a lot of different options here. You have kind of the original carbon fiber, as you can see here on this Tucson, but carbon fiber is actually surprisingly similar to titanium as far as why it's used in the knife industry. It's just great. It's strong, it's durable, it's attractive, it's very light. It gives it that very high end feel to a knife, and it's also pretty easy to contour and get to fit your hand. As you can see, it gives a very nice resemblance. Anytime light hits it, you get that nice different types of shimmering and reflection off the material itself. This is more of just kind of your basic carbon fiber. There's nothing crazy going on. Tucson just did a very, very good job of smoothing this out with no imperfections. That can be a problem with carbon fiber. That's probably, in my opinion, really the only drawback. Carbon fiber is not cheap. It's one of the more expensive handle options. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about a material like this, I mean, that's just something that you accept with it. It is what it is. But you have very smooth finish, no imperfections. Sometimes you can get little pieces of the carbon fiber to, kind of fall out as it's being smoothed or milled or whatever you're doing to finish the handle. And that can be less than perfect. It can actually be a pretty big drawback. But as you can see, even back here, this area here was milled a little, and it was done very well because there's no pieces missing. You can just see that. I don't really know why they did that, but it's pretty cool they did, because it's a nice little hint. You don't really notice it that much in the knife, but when you do notice little things like that, you're like, okay, that's kind of nice. But just the traditional carbon fiber here, and it got to be so popular, so many people liked it, then you started getting into other types of carbon fiber. And as you can see here on this Vero Axon, which you will be seeing a review of pretty soon here, this is the cross cut, where you don't see, instead of seeing the squares and just the typical appearance, this is cutting it in the other direction to where all you see are the lines kind of squiggling down this way with nothing really intersecting with them, which I think is pretty awesome. I actually really, really, really like this cut. I just wish on this particular example here, usually you can see the weaves a little better, or the squiggly lines. I don't know the correct term for it. Someone tell me in the comments. I'm sure everybody else knows. But it it looks really good. Now this, when I first got this, I thought this was G10 because I think there was G10 options of this. This was sent into a viewer, so it's not mine. But yeah, it does look really good. And then when you get it in light, that's when you can really see it. And I think it looks absolutely amazing. You don't see this a whole lot right now. I sure hope we do see it more because it is fantastic. When you move it to the side here, that's when you see your more traditional appearance of carbon fiber. So now I think that kind of brings it all together for everybody. There's your crosscut or side cut, crosscut. I believe it's called crosscut. Crosscut, side cut. Someone tell me. I don't know my terminology that well. Again, I don't work in this field of actually manufacturing carbon fiber, but I just really like the way it looks. And of course, this is light. Carbon fiber in general is extremely, extremely durable. One of the most durable materials you can use to make knives with knife handles with. So it's just an excellent option. So you get stuff like this. Then you get into raindrop carbon fiber, which gives you, like I said, on this Monterey Bay Knives Old Guard, it gives you a kind of a wooden grain appearance as far as the feel and looks, because there's different amounts of texture here. You feel this swirly texture, and it looks amazing when light hits it. It shines in a completely different way than any other carbon fiber. It's really kind of I guess marbled, even though there's marbled carbon fiber technically a little different. The raindrop has more of the distinguished circles in it. Kind of looks like a raindrop hits it and spreads out, kind of like on water. But no, it gives it a very, very good appearance, very unique appearance. I think you're going to see a lot more of this material in the future because it is catching on and it does look really, really good. And then you get into fat carbon, which in my opinion is really its own type of carbon fiber. I mean, it's still just carbon fiber, but these guys just knock it out of the park. You have color, you have textures, more than anything. It's kind of like textures that you see and not necessarily feel, because this is smooth. This is another one from Sharp Dress Knives that she did a fantastic job on. And as you can see, the red mixed in with the black and the carbon fiber sheen you get from certain spots of it, it just makes for an excellent way to customize your knife, really make it your own. And it just feels so good in hand, and it adds no weight. I mean, really, probably a little lighter. You're not really going to notice the weight difference between G10 or carbon fiber. You do it mostly for just the upgrade in material and appearance. But I do think you definitely get some more durability with that carbon fiber over G10. At least in my opinion, it's definitely going to hold up better than G10. And it just looks great. In all honesty, at the end of the day, when you use fat carbon, you're going for appearance and that wow factor more than anything else. Yeah, I don't think anyone can deny that. But there's nothing wrong with that, because I plan on doing it a lot more with my knives because I absolutely love it. This is the Lava Flow carbon fiber. And then right here, you have the dark matter with blue in it, which is probably, I think the dark matter is my favorite. It's my favorite fat carbon because I like that marble effect you get with it. I like the blue mixed in there. Other colors are nice too. The red is really sweet. The green is one I would like to get on a knife, but it just adds such a, kind of I'd almost say like a mystical gothic look to it. That's just the words that come to my mind. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I really like the look it gives to it. Makes a knife so different. And when you have to carry this outside, you carry this outside in the sun, and it as you can see here with just the light coming in from my room, hitting it, it just looks great. It really does look amazing. You pair that with a lynch clip, and you got yourself a perfect Spyderco. But that's carbon fiber in a nutshell. A material that's not going anywhere. It's going to be on knives for, God knows, probably forever. And it is absolutely amazing. A material that's really, really grown on me over the years to where I absolutely just love it. And lastly, we're talking about, I wouldn't call it the best, but again, it's in that holy trinity, and that is titanium. And titanium goes from all different types of, what you want to do with it. You really have a lot of options when it comes to titanium, and they're really almost endless because you get into anodizing and engraving and texturizing and all sorts of different things. So here we have just your typical titanium handles. I think that's the first time I've ever botched a flip on this quiet carry waypoint. But again, you have obviously a real little milling there for quiet carry's kind of a signature thing they do to all knives. But more than anything, this is just stonewashed. And that's the same with this Chavez Redención 229. You just have a stonewashed finish. Now, what I find really unique about titanium is even when it's flat like this, I don't know about everybody else, but I still get a really good grip. There's still, it grabs your fingers in a certain way to where you have a decent amount of grip. Now, by no means do you feel a texture or anything, like this Brown Knives Jaeger, completely different animal, but it still feels good in hand as far as the grip you get with it. Obviously, this little notch here has a lot to do with it, but I'm talking about just this flat surface. As you can see, I move my finger up, and you hear it kind of drag and get kind of almost a tacky feel. It's not real tacky, but you still get a really good grip with it. And the bigger the handle gets, it gets even better. I don't know exactly what causes that. I may very well be the stonewash finished, I think, because obviously if this was polished, it would be very slick. This right here, the Waypoint, has a little more of a grip to it than this titanium here on the Chavez. But regardless, it still makes for a very good feel in hand. Titanium is also light. It's I don't think it's as light. It's definitely not as light as carbon fiber, but it's still lighter, obviously much lighter than copper or brass or any other type of metal. It's also holds up to any type of element very, very well, extremely corrosion resistant, and just really a superstar when it comes to handle materials, especially if you want something that is literally going to last forever. Titanium is just good. It's never going to wear out on you. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. It'll last a lifetime and more. And then also with titanium, you get the options of anodizing, and it's a little easier to anodize titanium than it is aluminum, as you see here on the Damn Designs Oni. Just you can get really rich colors. This is a kind of a purplish light blue, and you can range from all sorts of colors. Now you can't anodize titanium any color, but if you'll have to Google it, look up. There's certain colors that you can be anodized and others that can't. This is a really good option here. It looks really good, and as you can see, it's done very uniform. There's no it's not blotchy or spotty due to the process of how it's done. If you Google titanium anodization, there's some really, really cool videos out there that you can do it at home very easily, very safely. Very fun thing to experiment with is anodization. And then you get to texturizing. And this right here, this I think really sets titanium apart. And this is one of the first knives I've ever experienced textured titanium like this, and it feels great. Obviously, this is a little bit more of an aggressive pattern on this Jaeger here. This is another one review coming, and I can't wait to bring this one to you guys. But it just feels great. It really does. It bites your finger. It makes it a real true worker's knife because it's not going anywhere. It's not going to hurt your fingers, but it's grabbing onto your fingers. It's not letting go, which just makes it absolutely fantastic, gives it a very nice appearance, and it just looks really good, even without any type of anodization or anything like that. It just looks good on its own. A nice neutral outfit here that looks absolutely fantastic. And of course, more than anything, gives you a phenomenal grip. Then you get to kind of this is by no means an artsy knife. It can definitely be used, and it has been used, but this kind of maximizes the potential and shows you what you can truly do with titanium. This is the Spartan Harzy folder in S45VN in the COVID-19 edition, and as you can see, it's got the CNC engraving all over it, from the pivot all the way down the handle. It's got some I believe this is anodizing with some other type of finish here. They really did a number on this, and it just looks amazing. But as you can see, you have that good like antiqued brush look to it all over the knife, and it really does show you what can be done on titanium. Titanium is really kind of gives you just a base to work with and put any type of expressions or artistic touches, designs, milling. That's why something like these are so attractive, because you can really do whatever you want to them and really make them your own. Places like Way of Knife, they just do fantastic modding jobs, and this is kind of showing exactly what can be done. And it just gives you endless options of how to make a knife your own, or how to make a production knife really stand out, like they did here with the Spartan Harsey folder. Spartan blades are always coming out with special editions of their Harsey folder. This one, I just couldn't pass up. No one will forget the year 2020, and I have something to remember it by. But no, just really goes to show the maximum level of customization and artistic element you can add to a knife. So that's where we end with titanium. So again, quick recap: titanium, carbon fiber, you can't go wrong with. Micarta, for the most part, you can't go wrong with. And then you have all these other options here. So guys, I know this has been a really long one. I promise I'm going to keep it under an hour. I still got 8 minutes to ramble on here. Over 8 minutes. I'm not going to ramble for 8 minutes. But let me know, what material do you prefer? What do you like most on your knife? I know it's hard to pick one. If you had to pick one, what would it be? And after that one, what are your second and third options? Let me know. Let me know what you prefer, because everyone has different reasons. Everyone uses their knives differently. And I'm really interested to hear what everyone's thoughts are on this, because this is something that's really going to kind of change over time as far as the knife industry grows, or however it works, as far as what the people prefer, because that's the way the market goes. If people keep buying titanium, you're going to see a lot of titanium. If people keep hounding and yelling for micarta, you're going to see more and more micarta. Micarta is a primary example of a material that has exploded over the past 2 years, really. Back in 2017, you didn't see nearly, you could say the micarta options were very, very slim. Now, micarta is everywhere. It's a prime example of how material can rise and fall in the industry. So let me know, what are your favorites? What do you want to see? Is there a material I left out? Is there a material I left out that you think should be on this list? Let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you stuck with me the whole way through, you're amazing, because I think I'm even going to be skipping through a little of this when I watch through it. This turned out to be a very, very long video, but I hope it helped you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and until the next one, I'm out.